Morning, Palm Beach. My name is Abby Maloney, the President and CEO of Capital Analytics. Welcome to the third launch conference of Invest Palm Beach. We are pleased to have you here today to celebrate this report and in-depth analysis of what makes the region tick, where are the opportunities, and what challenges lie ahead. While COVID-19 now seems to be a regular part of our daily life, and uncertainty remains despite good news overall on case numbers, there's also a great deal of optimism in the region. That's not only evident across the nearly 150 interviews that we did for this year's report, but it's also evident in economic activity around the county, the companies relocating here, and the sheer number of people who are calling Palm Beach County their home. Certainly thanks in part to the outstanding efforts of Kelly Smallridge and her team at the Business Development Board. In fact, those things were happening before the pandemic, which is one of the reasons why Palm Beach County was able to weather the storm better than most, with a burgeoning financial service sector adding to an already diverse economy that includes high-tech, manufacturing, and agriculture. Pretty much everyone agrees that the future looks bright for the county, with a great deal of potential in a region brimming with opportunities. Of course, we're not out of the woods yet with COVID-19, and there are many challenges that have resulted from the pandemic. One strong example is the labor shortage many businesses are dealing with. In fact, in August, there are more job openings in Palm Beach County than the number of people applying, according to reports. That is having an impact on how companies do their business and their growth. In real estate and construction, material prices and supply chain issues are causing headaches that are trickling down into other industries. These hurdles are real and impactful. Despite these challenges, there's no doubt that Palm Beach County is moving forward in a positive direction. At Capital Analytics, we're also excited to move forward, building on a surprisingly successful year, given everything that has transpired. Like so many other businesses, we saw the pandemic as an opportunity to change things up, to grow. Business intelligence is now more vital than ever, whether it's print, digital, or virtual conferences like these. Our Invest Insights video platform, for example, has exploded. We're finding that our partners, like yourselves, want to participate, want a community connection, and want to get the message out that the world marches on. First, we've expanded our talented team at Capital Analytics and have entered into 7 new markets in this post-pandemic climate, to include Pittsburgh, Minneapolis-St. Paul, Raleigh-Durham, San Antonio, Nashville, Jacksonville, and North Jersey. Next, our Invest Insights video platform has exploded. Season 4 has just recently been released. We find that our partners, like yourselves, want to participate and want to lean in. We've expanded that video platform to a podcast last year so our readers and viewers can listen to this informative information on the go. And we could not be more pleased with our adaptation to virtual events. Transforming our live conferences to the digital world last year was nerve-wracking at first, but we've discovered that we have a new skill set here at Capital Analytics. After over 12 successful virtual launch conferences this past year, and today here registered with over 400 guests, we are pleased that the virtual world, in an age where Zoom is becoming Zoom malaise, is not it for us. We find that our audience is even more engaged than before. Our global readers and subscribers are here. They're here to listen to what we have to say in these virtual events. They're here to listen to what we have to say in our reports. If people are to invest in uncertain times, they want to be even better informed, and they're coming to us to do just that. So as you can see, the key for us, as for many of you, has been the ability to transform. Transformation, in fact, is our adopted theme for this year and will be a central element in our discussions today as we look to the future of the county in the region, real estate and finance, and what transformations that have taken place. In all of our discussions with hundreds of businesses and political leaders, a common thread is how far we've come in such a short period of time. How many advances that were expected to take years have taken just months. As a community, there is little doubt that we've transformed for the better, emerging stronger than ever. I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsors for today. The Business Development Board of the Palm Beach County, the Downtown Development Authority of West Palm Beach, Florida Blue, and our partners and honored sponsors, the Boca Raton Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce of the Palm Beaches, and Palm Beach County. Thank you. It is with your support that we can continue to bring high-level speakers and content to Palm Beach County. I would also like to recognize the team that worked tirelessly on this year's report. Laura Hernandez and Alejandro Sanchez. This edition is certainly well done. Kudos. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our opening keynote, Palm Beach County Administrator, Virginia Baker. Virginia, can you please turn on your audio and your video at this time? Some audio and video, Virginia. Not too sure if you can hear me, Virginia. I can see that you're in the room. There we go. We got a video. Now we just need audio. There we go.
Good morning.
Excellent. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you, Abby?
I'm very good. Well, I'll let you to it. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Thank you so very much. Good morning, Palm Beach County. I am thankful for the opportunity to kick off the launch for Invest Palm Beach County. I recently received the hot off the press Invest Palm Beach County 2021 magazine, and it is amazing information being shared about our county. Residents of Palm Beach County live, work, and play in paradise. As the county administrator CEO, I am partial. Yes, I am. But I really believe Palm Beach County is the best of everything, including resiliency during the last year and a half. The adaptability and innovation, especially when considering how this community has evolved through the pandemic, spurring economic growth and vitality. Leading Palm Beach County, I know it is important for us to set an example of dealing with the now and strategically focusing on the future. COVID steered many people in a traditional workforce setting to become entrepreneurs and successful beyond their wildest dreams. Teleworking became more popular than ever, allowing work hours to flex a bit more than the regular 8 to 5. And with all of the teleworking and schools going to distance learning, our broadband infrastructure was expanded and continues to expand into the foreseeable future. We work with our partners at the school board to have this accomplished. As a result of the digital divide has been narrowed, and Palm Beach County government has a presence in 89 schools targeting 25,000 students and their families. Economic diversity has flourished in Palm Beach County. Even during the pandemic, we are seeing more businesses expand beyond the healthcare industry, equine industry, bioscience, aerospace, construction, agriculture, as well as tourism, which is almost back to 2019 levels. But I'll leave that to Glenn to share with you later. I briefly touched on how many more people went into business for themselves in this pandemic, and they are thriving. On the flip side, since online shopping increased, so did the demand for goods in a quick manner. Amazon expanding, opening facilities in the north and south portions of the county. Thank you, Kelly Smallridge and BDB, for all your hard work. Finfrock is opening a new manufacturing headquarters in Belglade, bringing jobs to a region where it can be challenging for residents of the Glades to obtain employment. We focus on all areas of our county, looking to have all of our residents employed. More than expansion efforts, we are seeing companies leave Wall Street behind to live, work, and play here in paradise, as previously stated. The increase in working from anywhere allowed those businesses to begin thinking outside the box and determine successful businesses could get done work anywhere. Why not paradise in Palm Beach County? We are fortunate to have fabulous partnerships with our 39 municipalities in the county, allowing all of us to grow a better business community. The Business Development Board joined with us to relocate or expand more than 24 corporations. Roughly 70% of these corporations are from other states, mainly California and New York. All of these corporations have employees who are often relocating to Palm Beach County. Our construction industry is booming, not only building commercially, but also in the residential sector. Workforce housing, somewhere the majority of us can't afford to live, is something the county is constantly concerned with and working to resolve. We work to acquire, rehab, allocate purchase assistance, and develop new construction projects all the time. The Board of County Commissioners recently approved a proposal using $60 million of federal funds toward additional housing. This is in addition to the investment of sales tax allocation of roughly about $25.5 million for our very and extremely low AMI in Palm Beach County. People deserve also to live here in Palm Beach County while working here. It is to all of our best interests to make sure that we can house the people we employ in Palm Beach County. Naturally, we need all of their monies to remain here in our economy as we invest and grow our economy. Our business industry is also at the table with us. We're going to partner and come up with solutions on how to address the challenge of workforce affordable housing. It is to all of our interests to make sure we can keep these residents employed so that we have an employment pool available to fill the jobs that are here in our community. In the beginning, I referenced how this county adapts, thinks outside the box, uses forward thinking, and really sets a precedent by becoming the trendsetter in looking toward the future and beyond, even during the pandemic. We were some of the first who began to hold in-person meetings again after so many meeting places shut down to public access. And because of this action, we are beginning to see more conventions, tourists, and a Glenn. Glenn will address this issue later. And in general, people are spending more dollars here in Palm Beach County. We have put into place a new electronic system, allowing thousands of residents to successfully access the support services available and required to support their families. Our housing insecure individuals have a non-congregate shelter open in Pahokee now, as well as an assessment center in Belle Glade. We have a 3,500 square foot recovery community center as a part of our opioid plan, allowing those who are recovering to have access to services needed. And it's not only open to opioid, but it is also open to other substance use. So we encourage our residents who need help to reach out to Palm Beach County, and we would be able to guide them in the right direction as far as services are needed. Thanks again to our robust business boom. Palm Beach County for 1 year, August 2020 to August 2021, has had an employment rate lower than the national and state rates, even lower than our neighbors to the south, Miami-Dade and Broward, as well as the greater Orlando area. I am proud of the teamwork we put in here in Palm Beach County. We work together as a community, the business community, the nonprofits, as well as government, to make this community the best that it can be. I am proud to be involved in such a thriving county and plan to keep things progressing during my tenure as your county administrator and CEO well into the future. So again, thank you and congratulations to Invest, and congratulations to Palm Beach County for our kickoff launch of Invest Palm Beach County 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia, for being with us today and for your remarks. We appreciate you and your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would also like to add all of our appreciation, not just to you, but to the entire team that you have there for your efforts to support the business community over the past year and a half. While I wish we were gathered together today, it is my pleasure to be here with you virtually. For those who do not know me, I'm Jack Miller, Regional Director for the South Region at Capital Analytics. I would also like to add my thanks to everyone who contributed to this year's report, our third edition for Invest Palm Beach, and supported us over these past 3 years. I want to take just a moment to update you on our work. We entered South Florida and Miami 7 years ago and have only continued to grow, having expanded to, of course, Palm Beach, Broward, Tampa Bay, Orlando, and research is now underway for our first edition of Invest Jacksonville. As Abby mentioned, we have also begun research further abroad in Nashville, Minneapolis, St. Paul, North Jersey, Pittsburgh, and San Antonio. If you have people that you know in those areas that would like to be a part of our reports, please do reach out to us. You can also sign up to any of our newsletters for any of these markets, or to receive a copy of our report. You can email contact@capitalaa.com or visit our website, capitalanalytics.com. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our first panel, Healthcare Innovation, how the industry is tackling healthcare's most pressing challenges. Moderating this panel today is Alina Alonso, Director at the Florida Department of Health, Palm Beach County. Alina, if you could please turn on your camera and unmute yourself. I'm gonna turn it over to you to introduce the other panelists and begin the discussion. I think coming on right now.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Alina. Yep, we can hear you. There we go.
Hi. When I pushed to join the panelists, it started me all over again, but here I am. It is such a pleasure to be with you here today, and what a pleasure to go after our county administrator, Miss Baker. She has been my hero through this entire pandemic, and I just love her. So I'm very proud to go after her. So we're going to be chatting here with two very special people that I have with me today. Penny Schaefer, who is the market president of Florida Blue. Hi, Penny. And we have Sophia George Delameda, and pleasure to meet you. You're the Dean and Professor at the Christine E. Lind College of Nursing in Florida Atlantic University. And thank you both for being here. I have some questions to share with you, and hopefully we can get this going. So I'm going to start with first, perhaps two questions for both of you. The first one is, what would you identify as a couple of the key takeaways from handling the issues of the last 18 months? And how are these lessons learned currently benefiting your organization's operations?
So Dr. George, I'll let you start if you'd like to.
Sure. Well, I know one thing for sure is that we learned that our nursing students and faculty are very resilient, right? We've all endured a lot in the past almost 2 years, and we've learned that they are very resilient. We've had to switch to primarily virtual learning. We're excited to be back in the clinical settings now. So students have taken what they've learned in their textbooks through virtual simulation and in the classrooms, even in a virtual environment, to now be able to apply them to real life patient scenarios. Of course, we also learned that nurses are the backbone of the healthcare system, and nurses were on the front lines throughout the pandemic, and just really recognize the huge importance of nursing in upholding our healthcare system throughout this pandemic, which is also what they've done before the pandemic and what they'll continue to do after the pandemic. So although we've resumed in-person classes, we still offer hybrid environments because we learned that virtual learning can still be done effectively. We still can flip classrooms in a virtual environment. We can still have breakout sessions. This webinar today is an example. We can still have engaging discussions with leaders in the field. My dear friend Penny on here to learn from each other. So we learned that shared learning continues to happen. I can learn from students. They can continue to learn from faculty. We also learn from patients. for this pandemic, we learned a lot from patients. They were the ones telling us what they were experiencing, even as we learned about long haulers, they are teaching us day to day as we're all learning together about this pandemic. My hat goes off to everyone in the healthcare field, doctors, physical therapists, respiratory therapists, but we're definitely learning together, and the world is experiencing this together. So we all have a shared humanity, and I think we've done a great job of sharing everything and all the lessons we've learned across the globe. So I'm very proud of that and proud of what nursing has done across the globe as well.
You're absolutely right. Nurses have always been my hero also. I would never have made it through medical school without them. Penny, what about from your perspective?
Sure, thank you. And of course, typical of Skype or Zoom team settings, the waste removal truck arrived just as you asked the question. So thanks, Dr. George, for taking the soft pitch there. Florida Blue, most people would know Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida. It is the Blue Cross Blue Shield affiliate here. We tend to lead with mission. And of course, our mission is to help individuals and communities achieve better health. And so it called upon our agility to look at the environment we were in from that perspective and really look across the constituency that makes that up, which for us is members, employees, and the community. So $200 million were spent over the course of these last 18 months to help support those three constituencies. When it comes to members, obviously immediately it was zero cost share for members to access testing, treatment, vaccines. That had to happen immediately because we wanted no barriers to people seeking care. Second was really to change our reward system. It's not unusual in health insurance benefits to have some reward system for good behaviors. We shifted that immediately to make it possible for the reward system to actually earn credits towards your premium. So many households were with reduced income, and the ability to keep your health insurance, and by law, we can't give it away for free. So to make it possible for people to keep their health insurance in good standing. And so we shifted that benefit program to the rewards there. And then the access to virtual visits, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but really made it possible for people to continue ongoing care in a safe environment and cautiously. For employees, we moved 12,000 employees across the country to a home setting in a 10-day period of time. Hats off to the IT world for being able to pull that off, put them in a safe environment. We also recognized that a lot of other people were doing the same thing. So they were fighting for space on the dining room table with spouses and children who were trying to go to school. So we also gave them a lot of flexibility with how to manage that home situation. And then for the community, we recognized a lot of challenges the community faced. So $7 million immediately went to food security because so many people already lived in food deserts. And now we've exacerbated the problem with access, with employment, and so forth. We provided access to testing. We provided access to PPE, which people needed desperately in order to continue jobs in many cases. And of course, the vaccines. We've brought vaccines to parts of the population that most people don't even think about, but had no access. Think about detention centers and how close people live to each other in the detention centers and bringing vaccines there. Homebound individuals who were trying to work jobs and couldn't get the time to go when the vaccines were available. And so those have been some of the key things for us. I would say the key word has been learning to be agile.
Very, very well said. Looking forward now, that's kind of like looking where we've been, but I want to pick up on a couple things that you said. What do you believe is the main challenges and primary risks facing the future growth as we see our growth expanding in Palm Beach County, especially in the healthcare industry this time? Maybe that would go to you, Penny.
Oh, okay. Start with me. No problem. So we've seen the landscape changed, without a doubt, coming out of it. And I hope we're coming out of it. We're all hoping that we're coming out of it. I think the biggest landscape change really is going to be the collaboration that, we laughed about Skype, a Zoom, a team, But if you think about it, the technology has existed for a long time to provide virtual visits or telehealth visits. Whether people adopted the technology was different. We've seen a 4,000% increase in the adoption of access to virtual care, not only in primary care, settings, but also in our behavioral health settings. And so I think it's going to open up the access for care. The challenge is going to be having enough clinicians available to handle it. And so we've done a couple of things with both Palm Beach State and with FAU. I'll let Dr. George talk about it specifically, but to provide more access to care through scholarship programs that are specifically aimed at bringing in our community participants into the clinician world in some medical, some medical capacity. And so we're proud of that work. And I'll throw it to you, Dr. George, because I know that's just one aspect of some of the things that
Any
you do.
specific challenges that you see, Dr. George?
Yeah, I think there are many opportunities, right, to impact change. And I think that as we continue to partner with others in the healthcare field in order to help address health inequities, right, is a big challenge that the nation is facing, and we here in South Florida are also facing. And so as we try to tackle this mammoth of a problem of addressing health inequities, it'll take a huge partnership and collaboration approach across all sectors: healthcare, housing, social services. And so we do have a nurse-led community health center in West Palm Beach as one example, with 2 locations where we provide healthcare to low-income residents, many of whom are uninsured or underinsured, but also those who have insurance, including Medicaid, Florida Blue, and other kinds of insurance. And so you also have to reach them and go to where they're at, right? They also have a number of challenges. Penny talked about sort of, work-related challenges, transportation challenges that they can't always come. So it does require community outreach, right? So we do health fairs. We partner with a number of local community-based organizations to be able to reach people where they are, YMCAs, for example, schools, daycare, because we do provide care across the spectrum from children to adulthood to older adulthood. And so it does require a coordinated effort, and it does require lots and lots and lots of collaboration. We also know that mental health is a challenge that existed before the pandemic and has been, significantly increased as people are juggling multiple challenges related to, finances, related to navigating what's happening in healthcare, in the workforce. So definitely working together to address these challenges. And that has to start also by preparing nurses to be able to address these challenges, not in the healthcare system alone in terms of inpatient centers. That is still important. That is still key. But also doing that in a community setting. We know that there's a nursing shortage worldwide, but also, of course, here in the US and in South Florida. But we also know that there's a huge shortage in primary care settings, right? There's a need for more primary care physicians, as well as, nurse practitioners in primary care settings. And so one thing we're doing at FAU, and even in collaboration with Florida Blue, is we're creating a program that specifically will help nursing students at the undergraduate level, and we're hoping to be able to expand that to nurse practitioner students and doctor of nursing practice students as well, to be able to learn very early on in their educational program about health equity, right? And how to help improve health equity, improve access to care, and narrow the gap in what we see in health disparities. And so our students will be learning a lot about, culture of health framework that Robert Johnson Foundation, for example, has helped propel. Also social determinants of health framework through the Center of Disease Control and so on. But we recognize through this pandemic that public health is very important. And so we need all hands on deck, our physician colleagues, nursing colleagues, social work colleagues, all working together and bringing public health to the forefront. And so in this program, for example, we'll have a number of students who will be provided with scholarships across their program so that they can take additional seminars above and beyond what's already in their curriculum and have focused rotations at our community health center, for example, in addition to the rotations that they have in inpatient units, so that they see, as they see patients in a exam room, they also are aware of what they'll go back to at home. Similarly, once a patient is discharged from a hospital, they go back to their home environment where they may not have access to follow-up care, transportation issues, they might have, limited resources. What we saw early in the pandemic is we had lots of individuals in the community surrounding our community health center. Although, people were being advised to wear masks, or there were mask mandates at the time, they had no resources to even get masks. So of course they couldn't wear masks. And so in that community, for example, we saw higher rates of COVID morbidity as well as COVID mortality. And so something as simple as, understanding the basic tenets of public health, of social distancing, something as simple as that, or even testing, if people don't have a full understanding or even access to, to protective information or preventative health, then we tend to see worse outcomes in those communities. So definitely working together closely with community partners to be able to reach hard to reach communities, including those who are homeless, including single mothers, for example, who may not have childcare to be able to, do what they need to do in terms of contributing to the finances of their family. So addressing those challenges simultaneously. What we were also able to do was provide mental health education, right? That's sort of something that's very simple, but in providing mental health education to those through webinars, for example, or through community outreach, that goes a long way, because we know that people's mental health affects their physical health, right? If they're not in great mental health, then physical health is sort of secondary in even being able to work, to provide for their families or themselves, or even to be able to take their medications as they should for their diabetes, for example. We know that mental health is very intertwined with physical health. And we know that we're familiar with post-traumatic stress disorder and the symptoms in connection with war, for example. But experiencing a pandemic and what many people experience, whether related to job loss or loss of family or loved one, or even nurses caring for those individuals in hospitals, that has created a lot of post-traumatic stress for many healthcare providers, doctors. We saw what was happening in New York, for example, in terms of increased rates of suicide amongst healthcare professionals. So we want to prevent that and care for our nurses, and also teach nursing students how to care for themselves and engage in self-care so that burnout doesn't happen. Because as compassionate as nurses and doctors and social workers are, we are human, and burnout and compassion fatigue can happen. So that's a huge challenge. So we do need to work together, with everyone across the sector in terms of housing sector, working closely with social workers so that we can help coordinate efforts for patients to help meet the multiple needs that they have, because healthcare alone is not their only need. They also need help with these wraparound services. So definitely coordinating these efforts are key.
Definitely, the pandemic has definitely, highlighted many of these inequities, and we know that you can't solve everything with medical interventions. That's only like maybe 20% of the problem. The other 80% are all those social determinants. So it's music to my ear when you talk that language. Thank you so much. Penny and Ms. Schaefer, would you like to comment on that also? And if you can also perhaps bring in how Florida Blue is addressing some of the challenges with small businesses owners that are facing and providing affordable health care options to their employees. I know that's always been an issue, and people talk about that all the time.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And I do want for the business community, we're talking about health, but I want the business community to recognize that this notion of social determinants or social drivers of health really comes home in your business community as well. What we've learned is, the traditional way that we've all looked at healthcare is interesting, but it's been very much focused on an illness model, and we all need to be looking at this as from a prevention perspective, from a wellness model. And part of that is understanding those social determinants or social drivers of health. I have to tell you that most of us think of that as in the underserved communities. That happens out there. Well, guess what? It happens right here inside every one of our businesses And if we don't start paying attention to that and looking at some of the non-traditional ways that healthcare and your health coverage can impact that, as employers who are offering healthcare services, you've got to pay attention to what's happening from a food security perspective. You have to pay attention to what's happening to your employee workforce from a transportation and housing perspective. You need to provide the assistance on mental well-being. And so starting to look at when your HR teams are coming to you and talking to you about, we need a wellness program, and you go, yeah, well, where's the return on investment for that? Guess what? It's right there. And it is not just in underserved communities, it's right within your own business. And so we're looking at it from a completely different lens on what was traditional healthcare and health insurance. We look at it more as health solutions. And so things that we're doing to surround the benefit structure. Pop Healthcare is an organization that does in-home visits. Now that's in collaboration with your primary care. It's not to take the place of your primary care, but in all conditions, getting up, getting out of your house and getting to a doctor's appointment, sitting in a waiting room is probably not the best for you as the patient or everybody in the waiting room. It exacerbates the treatment. Why not have an option where we can send in a clinician to help out and augment that without you having to leave your home? And there are absolutely circumstances where that makes sense. Doing a home visit to recognize all of the triggers that can bring on asthma attacks and other things, looking for mold, looking for, where's the in-room air conditioner that can make all the difference in the world? That's not traditional healthcare thinking, but it is about health solutions. We've just launched about a year ago, and in Palm Beach County, a small business answer for helping make it more affordable, because affordability is at the fore for every business and every individual. It's called Truly for Health. And it is really a curated network of the top in the field to bring that to the small group market. It includes Cleveland Clinic, it includes Bethesda East and West and Boca. It includes Sanitas, the primary care and specialty care that you're looking for in a curated package that makes it more affordable. So if nobody's talked to you and you're a small group or a mid-sized group, nobody's talked to you about Truly, give me a call, because that's what it's designed for, to really help flip the dialogue on how do we become more preventive? How do we make sure our employees have access? It isn't just about underserved communities. It's right here at home.
That's a great point. And we see lots of mental health issues have surfaced, right? Because all this pressure that's been put on folks. And like you said, it's not just the underserved community. People, especially seniors, who have been pretty much locked in out of fear, right? And they have been completely isolated. They've lost contact with their friends. They're really even scared to go out even now. And that has done a toll on people. Drinking has gone up significantly. I hear everybody every day, let's meet for a drink after this, So there are many bad habits that are overeating. People have gained up to 50 pounds during the pandemic. At least they're blaming it on the pandemic.
I'm calling it my COVID-19. Actually, you're right about this concern about isolation and the way people have coped with the isolation and the stress that it's caused. Another effort I would be remiss if I didn't mention, Project Opioid, which is just a couple of weeks away from a major convening. And I thank Kelly again and the BDB of the Palm Beaches for helping to bring the business community to the dialogue. Again, opioid abuse and unfortunately loss is not confined to any community. It is across all communities. And the rise in opioid use during this time has been unbelievable and some ways unfathomable and unacceptable. We have to, as a community, which includes business, philanthropy, law enforcement, healthcare, all of us have a role to play in that. So I invite people to join us as we start that dialogue and the collaborative to really turn the tide on opioid use.
Well, thank you very much. We have about 5 minutes left, I believe, if I'm looking at my clock correctly. So I'm going to give this to the two of you, just a quick statement, perhaps, as as it relates to the healthcare sector, what would you identify as the most exciting new innovation and or progress made? And how could this change the future landscape of our business and our sector as a whole? Big question, but a little bit of time.
Oh, I think that's a great question. I think one thing that we saw really advance in terms of how we provide healthcare was the use of telehealth, right? We know that a lot of people use their telehealth technology to engage with their primary care provider, physician, nurse practitioner, and for other visits, whether it's health education related visits. So we know that telehealth was used before the pandemic, but the pace of the pandemic really catapulted the use of telehealth decades in advance, right? We also saw, parity in reimbursement for telehealth visits, and so on. And people became much more proficient in telehealth. Here at FAU, we've also developed a program, a certificate in telehealth to teach people how to have high technology while still having high touch and compassion, so that patients still feel very connected to their provider while the provider is engaging with them. We know that telehealth visits are virtual visits, right? But there's also advanced telehealth technology that we can then expand, right? We can have, digital, I myself have a digital stethoscope, or you can, look in someone's ears and do an otoscopic exam or an eye exam through using telehealth. So and there's a lot more that those who have started using telehealth can even take that, further steps in order to help bridge the gaps between rural residents and, urban residents, because we still have those who are far away from medical centers who might have difficulty in accessing specialized care, for example. And so I think telehealth technology is one advancement that we can continue advancing. I think the other thing is the boom in artificial intelligence and the role of artificial intelligence in healthcare. Here at the College of Nursing, we've partnered with the College of Engineering to develop a joint nursing engineering program. So imagine you have amazing engineers who know how to develop softwares, technologies, and tools. And then, with feedback from nurses can help tweak those, after rounds. Even if you look at electronic medical health records, there are great things about EMRs, but there are also some things where it's like, oh, I wish this were a little bit different. And so now we have nurses trained with engineering backgrounds, right? They can get a Bachelor of Science in Nursing and a Master of Science in either artificial intelligence or a Master of Science in biomedical engineering, so that nurses now have the tools to work very well with engineers and to develop themselves technology, software that can be used in healthcare settings and even beyond primary healthcare settings, right? In industry, we have robotic surgery. So, nurses are very well poised to fit into those environments to help improve robotic surgeries in ways that perhaps, non-medical professionals could. And so that's one way that sort of we've advanced and tried to contribute to the advancements that are happening in healthcare. I think another thing is, as we look at diseases, the development of predictive models, right? If we can predict those patients that will have certain outcomes, whether related to morbidity or mortality, or we can use those same algorithms and similarly apply them to other variables in the business world to help predict a number of things. But by using artificial intelligence and the ability to develop predictive models, those can be applied to fintech or financial tech world in business analytics, or they can be applied to healthcare in order to help predict, short-term and long-term outcomes of COVID, which is one thing my team and I are working on here in nursing and with the College of Engineering, or to a number of other things, right? Once you develop robust predictive models that can analyze millions of pieces of data at once, then that can be used as a model for other healthcare, other sectors, including healthcare and outside of healthcare as well. So I think
certainly very exciting new future. Penny, you want to kind of wrap it up for us then?
Sure. I will tell you that whole notion of data is so important, and interoperability. So imagine a day when your health insurance card is as secure and as ubiquitous as your ATM card. Imagine if it was, if all that information was tethered to it in such a way that we could really look at value-based outcomes as opposed to these, fee-for-service incidents. And I think that may be, one of the most impressive things that could happen. So data sharing is happening today. We could do a lot more of it. And so advocate for data sharing.
You got it. Well, thank you very much. Very exciting. I love being in the university setting and I love going to FAU. So I'm one of those, I could have been a perpetual student for the rest of my life. I guess I am because I'm a physician and we should be students,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Thank you very, very much. I turn
If
it
everyone
over
could
to
just, if everyone could just hold for 1 second and smile, we're just taking a quick picture. Perfect.
Great. Thank you so much, Alina and Penny and Sophia, for being with us today. That was a great discussion. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Again, thank you for everyone who is here joining us today. We really appreciate your time as well and tuning into these important discussions. As a reminder, all registered attendees today will receive complimentary access to read our Invest Palm Beach 2021 report. Look out for an email that will be sent out early next week. Also, we are currently live streaming on our YouTube page, where this event will also sit for anyone who would like to revisit it or share it around. I would now like to introduce our second panel for today's event. Community Minded, how Palm Beach County is addressing challenges related to infrastructure, redevelopment, and mobility. Moderating this panel today is a great friend to Capital Analytics, Andrew Duffel, President at Research Park at Florida Atlantic University. Andrew, it's great to see you today. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Well, I'll turn it over to you to introduce our excellent panelists and to take away this discussion.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, panelists, and good afternoon, all of our attendees. Thank you all for joining us. That was a great discussion. It's such an exciting time to be around Florida Atlantic University. As you know, I work here at the Research Park, and I'm now excited to transition the conversation to infrastructure. I'm joined by panelists Rafael Clemente, who is the Executive Director of the West Palm Beach Downtown Development Authority, Laura Beebe, Airport Director at Palm Beach International Airport in Palm Beach County, and Ramsey Bulkley, the Executive Director of Palm Beach County Planning, Zoning, and Building. Thank you all very much for joining us. I'm looking forward to this discussion. Let's kick it off with an open question to everybody. What kinds of projects are keeping your organization busy during this point in the economic cycle, and how does that highlight Palm Beach County's growth over the last year? I'll go left to right. Do you want to start that one off, Rafael?
Sure, and good morning, Andrew. And I'll say right away, thank you to Capital Analytics and Invest Palm Beach for hosting such a great session today. So yes, the Downtown Development Authority, we have been very busy until pretty recently, honestly, helping our business community and community at large come through the impacts of COVID. You know, we played a significant role along with the city and private sector partners in providing different types of relief and programs that enabled our business community to be flexible and adaptable to the impacts of COVID. Primarily, I mean, really the biggest one was our ground floor businesses, restaurateurs and retailers. And then coming, into today, we have an incredible wave of growth, as we heard. County Administrator Baker mentioned the great success that we're seeing here in Palm Beach County and in West Palm Beach. A lot of that is centered on West Palm Beach. So I feel like collectively the efforts of the county, the city, the special districts like the DDA have really made an impact. And now for us, it's a matter of, can we keep up with the rate and quality of private investment in our district? So really just looking at keeping public spaces top quality, being sure that we can help facilitate any requests for support, incentives, et cetera, from our organization. So it's a good time, and I would say an unexpected, right? I think we could all agree, an unexpected outcome from what a little more than a year ago seemed like a very daunting situation. Still remains daunting nonetheless, but we are seeing some positive outcomes for sure.
Absolutely. So Laura and later Ramsey, you're looking at it from a county perspective. In your case, Laura, how have you been staying busy, keep getting people to downtown West Palm Beach and the rest of the county? What's been going on at the airport that has really highlighted the growth of the county overall lately?
So we've been very busy. We're definitely in the recovery phases from the COVID pandemic. We're getting close to our 2019 levels for number of employments and capacity. We've been very, very busy with air service development activities. You may see in some of our recent announcements, Sun Country's returned to the airport with Minneapolis service. Allegiance expanded to Minneapolis and to Austin. We have a new airline coming starting in December, Velo Airlines. We're very excited about that. They'll be going to New Haven. So I believe the airlines are very bullish about Florida right now, particularly in light of the impacts to international travel. So I think that that's a very positive thing for Palm Beach County and in terms of tourism and airport activities. Outside of air service, we're working on a really large Concourse B expansion project. We're adding about 50,000 square feet to the end of Concourse B. That's where American and United and Southwest operate. If you've been at the airport, it's about 50,000 square feet of space. It'll be concession, hold room, ability to add 2 additional gates, and an additional connection to our customs facility. So that's a really exciting project. We're lucky it was fully funded prior to the pandemic. So we're moving forward with that. We think we need it. And especially seeing kind of the resurgence of travel in Palm Beach County. We're also working on a runway extension at our North County General Aviation Airport. For those of you that don't know, we actually have a system of 4 airports, which includes 1 international airport and 3 general aviation. The North County General Aviation Airport runway extension will primarily allow some of the jets that currently operate there to operate without restrictions. So that project is, any sort of airfield capacity project takes a long time, but it's our hope that we will have that underway possibly by next year. For those of you that watched the board meeting yesterday, we also had a project approved with Ferrovial Vertiports Florida for the construction of a vertiport on the Palm Beach International Airport, which is another very exciting, innovative project. So we're really busy.
There is a lot going on, and I'm hopeful that a lot of that activity will expand into greater opportunities for local businesses to create jobs. And so Ramsey, Laura is bringing people in and sending empty planes back north. So how have you been staying busy making sure that all the people that she's bringing in can get around?
Well, they've been keeping us busy with about 300 to 400 permits a day and about 1,600 inspections per day. So it is extremely busy. What we have noticed is right when the pandemic started, I got a lot of panic calls from developers, mostly doing residential projects, wanting to know if we were going to stay open so they can continue to build and fund their projects. We were lucky enough, we were able to stay open the whole time. And as they were worried about, trying to finish their projects, they were also worried about trying to fill them. Well, every single one that I've been made aware of, and these are 200, 300, 400 unit projects, are all entirely pre-sold, pre-rented, already taken up. So it's extremely hot residential market, which then brings in the other factor, it may or may not necessarily be affordable. Next big thing that we found out is warehousing is going as quick as you can build it, it's taken. So we have massive warehouses from the Amazons to the airport's got a few warehouses. As soon as we can build them, they're gone, and they want them built yesterday. So you have the warehouses, and then the people that need to work in them, and then you have, what are we doing with the roads and the infrastructure? And that's something that we're obviously are looking to try and figure out the best way to do it and also still make it affordable. It's one thing to build all the infrastructure, but if it's not affordable, then no one can really afford to live here. So the county does have several projects in the works dealing with workforce housing, and we are aggressively addressing that to try provide rents and home ownership for folks that want to come down here, because we are seeing a ton of people coming down here. Surprisingly enough, this year, 2021, we're going to be at close to $3 billion worth of permitted value just in unincorporated Palm Beach County, and that's more than was in the booms before. So it's a ton of work, and we're happy to have it, and it's a good sign that everyone thought things would die down with COVID, but it's actually gone the opposite here.
So with that in mind, again, for all of you, with all of this growth and all of the success and activity that you're all seeing, what do you think are the main challenges that we're facing now as this economic growth and progression continues as it relates to infrastructure and development and mobility? Is it affordability? We'll go again with Raphael.
Well, Andrew, I think affordability plays a significant role in it. I mean, our keynote opening speaker, Virginia hit on that, and rightly so. I don't know. I look at Palm Beach County, not just at the downtown area, and what we're seeing, it's like we're seeing the tale of two counties, sort of two places. There's the Palm Beach County east of I-95 that has the advantage of, primarily traditional neighborhoods and central business districts dotting the eastern edge of our county. And then you have a different development pattern, primarily speaking, west of I-95, that does not allow growth and infill development in a way that really creates affordability, nor is it the type of development pattern that fits well with transit. So I think our challenge is rethinking, I think our big challenge, right, if we're going to zoom out to 10,000 feet, is rethinking our approach to land use and what sort of development patterns we incentivize or disincentivize and how we service those. I mean, as Ramsey said, the infrastructure is a key piece of allowing any development to happen. And we're not going to get to affordability and mobility together, and they are absolutely tied together. We're not going to get there unless we recalibrate our land development patterns. And I believe that, not pointing fingers, but I believe that primarily starts with the county, and then with the municipalities that have, the ability to, that are primarily Western County municipalities, is to facilitate that density to happen in the right place and at the appropriate density, and then feed it with infrastructure that supports it, transit, mixed use development patterns, et cetera. I think that's how we get to the solution.
Ramsey, do you want to add on to that before we jump over to Laura?
Yes, so I definitely agree with Raphael, and density is an issue that we're trying to deal with. The problem with, the land uses and the densities is everyone's afraid of density. So you try to put this density in where you think it's needed and appropriate, but then the neighbors are up in arms because they don't want the density next to them. And that's what makes a lot of these projects, difficult for some of the developers. Case in point, we had Lennox in North Palm Beach go through and huge uproar from the neighbors, but now as it's finished, it actually looks remarkably great, and it's 400 units, 25% workforce. So it's tackling that, it's tackling those higher densities and the taller buildings, and making them compatible with existing neighborhoods. That's really where it gets tough. As far as the other infrastructure, for the most part, it's there, but could probably use some more. But we just face those issues with the neighbors.
Ramsey, perhaps you and I can go on a road show from community to community and help sell density in transit.
I'm in
Good
there.
idea. Good idea. Laura, what are you seeing as the main challenge at this particular point in the cycle?
So our challenges really have to do with, increasing construction costs, labor costs, the cost of materials and supplies. We have to keep up with the demand, and we do have an aging facility. So we do have the need to continue to constantly rehabilitate our airports and to expand and to make sure that we're providing the best services that we can. But we really are struggling with some of the costs associated with, I don't know if it's fully from the pandemic, but it's certainly a result of it. Even internally, we struggle with staffing challenges. It's just very difficult to hire people. We find even our partners within the terminal are struggling to, hire staff, at the restaurants and at the shops at the airport. It's a very challenging environment when business is starting to really rebound for, the airline industry. So Those are probably our primary challenges. We are also a bit constrained on land at PBI due to the fact that we're bounded by the roadways. So that does also provide us a challenge in that, when we construct something new, we need to work within the envelope that we have. We can't just build a brand new terminal. We need to, work with the terminal that we have. It was built in 1988, which can be a bit of a challenge for us. But honestly, I think our number one challenge right now is really construction costs and, just keeping up with the demand.
Okay, well, a lot of these challenges are common across industries. I'm finding a lot of challenges in the technology companies I work with in finding the right kinds of people and staffing up, and obviously costs are increasing too. If I move over to you, Raphael, and talk about the downtown area of West Palm again, it's well known for its walkability and available transit options. Palm Beach County as a whole is obviously much larger and still has a ways to go in terms of creating a more well-connected community. What types of transit infrastructure investment projects do you think will help create a more connected Palm Beach County? And how can the progress that you've made in downtown area with the city act as a model for the rest of the county?
First I want to tout a program that we just started. In addition to the options that we have, and that's Tri-Rail, longstanding, regional option. Obviously, PalmTran, county's bus transit system in downtown. Brightline, which comes back in November. Bravo, cannot wait for that. Our trolley system, which has been operating since the year 2000. And most recently, we have entered into this collaboration with the Circuit, which is a electric shuttle vehicle service that works in the general downtown area, including a bit of the island of Palm Beach and the neighborhoods to the north and south of downtown, where we're trying a 3-month pilot project where any ride that begins in or terminates in the downtown area is a free ride. And what we're going to do with this program is, and Circuit was already operating in the downtown, but you had to pay to ride. So we are looking at this as a way to encourage people to arrive downtown and park once, or to arrive downtown without their vehicle on some other mode, and then have that completely fluid mobility of door-to-door service with this electric shuttle service. We're excited to learn. It started Monday, and it's a few days in, already looking like pretty strong response to it. Now, to answer your question about what could Palm Beach County do or learn from downtown, and I would say that maybe continuing with the statement I gave earlier about encouraging density in the right places and building the transportation infrastructure that would work for people to choose non-single occupant vehicle trips is, the big idea. How we get there, I think Ramsey hit the nail on the head about community preference, and not to sound, what would I say? Like I'm coming from the ivory tower of academic, approach to this, but people have to understand that either they're going to have modest density or they're going to sit in traffic. And that's the reality that every developing region faces, no matter what the case is. Either we build in transit options that give people options, this isn't get all the cars off the road. This is give people the option to choose another mode, or we just continue to get more and more problems with traffic. And when we talk about affordability and transit, if you think about it, if you do the math on finding an affordable house, and let's just use an example, in the downtown area, we have obviously a concentration of workforce, of jobs, the greatest concentration of jobs in the entire county. We're fairly well served by transit into and out of the area, but not as well as we could or should be. Once you're there, you have many options, but getting there is not convenient on transit. if you work at a place like Rocco's, and I'll use Rocco's as an example, everybody knows Rocco's Tacos. Rocco's employs about 60 or 70 people across all shifts, all days a week. 7 days a week across all shifts, lunch, dinner, and then nighttime hours. Some of those jobs are, I'm sure, well-paying jobs that are, the chef. I'm sure their bartenders and their wait staff make good money and tips. But then you start going down that wage ladder, and you have busboys, you have dishwashers, you have prep cooks, et cetera. For those individuals to find housing near where they work is getting increasingly difficult. And if you have to commute 45 minutes or so to get into your place of work, several things are happening. One, you're spending north of $3 a gallon to put fuel in your car, or you're spending a long time on a bus, sometimes 2 hours on a bus to get from western parts of the county to eastern. You are putting trips on the road, traffic on the road, and you're taking parking spaces in the area where we have the highest concentration of jobs. So these are all precious commodities that I feel like if we looked more critically at areas where we could have infill, and maybe I'm being naive in pointing to areas like Okeechobee Boulevard, or where we have a lot of declining strip centers, strip malls, shopping centers with lots and lots of real estate that could be repurposed. I think that's where we should be looking. We should be looking at these areas to increase density where it could work and increase mixed use where it could work. That increases our tax base. It checks a lot of boxes, if you will. And then we get a more quality environment for affordability, transit usage, et cetera. I mean, this is a very simplified sort of description of where I think we need to go, but I don't have a lot of time.
It sounds like we've got a question later on collaboration. That sounds like something we can get to there. But let me just jump over to Laura quickly and talk more about the transit and the transportation infrastructure she deals with. Palm Beach International generates almost $6 billion in annual economic activity in the local economy. Other than the pandemic, what have been the biggest challenges to maintaining and growing this economic engine and its impact, and how important is continuous investment into the airport's infrastructure to navigate these challenges? And you touched on that a little bit earlier.
I honestly think our biggest challenge at Palm Beach International is that we have two very large international airports just to the south of us that are relatively easy for the southern part of the county to get to. So we do have a number of folks that will leak into those airports when they really, our hope is that they would fly out of Palm Beach. So to be competitive, we really do need to provide all of those amenities and services that the bigger airports provide without losing our customer service and the things that we're really known for. That's why it's important that we continue to invest in things like expanding the concourses to make them more comfortable, to include, additional concessions, food and beverage opportunities, to, provide convenient options to get to the terminal, to do all those things that the larger airports are doing without losing the appeal of the Palm Beach International Airport. So the other challenge that we have is, over time, the busier you get, the more constrained your airfield will become in terms of capacity and airspace. Doing any sort of capacity project, i.e. like a runway extension, is exceedingly difficult. It's a lot of public involvement involved. Those projects can easily take a decade. So, those are very challenging as well. I do think, in terms of the short term, our most important projects really relate to the terminal.
Yeah, I mean, Palm Beach International has always had a great reputation for its friendliness and ease of use. So that's a difficult balancing act. And perhaps the capacity issue makes the vertiport project even more important and interesting for capacity building. Right. Ramsey, let me turn to you for a moment. Palm Beach County has been one of the primary beneficiaries, as we mentioned earlier, of in-migration to the state of Florida, primarily from higher tax states in the Northeast. How has this influx of people and investment exacerbated the already existing challenges like capacity on your infrastructure and affordable housing? And how are you approaching and navigating the requests for more density? you still have a head of hair, so you must be doing something right.
Well, it's going great though. So no, we're approaching the density. Actually, we've got some public hearings coming up where literally on Okeechobee Boulevard, right next to the Tesla dealership, there's some proposed projects to go there, high density, entirely workforce housing. So those we're kind of, opening our arms for and our hands for them to come in and trying to incentivize them through some expedited permitting to get them in and get them up. One of the things we do look for when we do put those types of uses there and those densities is what are the amenities that the residents can use. So there we've got some transport around. They're going to have lots of recreation in the property. So we look at all of those things to kind of make it more appealing for people to come. But the problem that we run into over and over is, frankly, people with higher tax brackets are coming and outpricing everyone, outpricing the locals. And then once they outprice the locals, they're demoing the house or redoing the house and making it everything bigger and nicer, which is fine, but everything is just getting that much more expensive. Not a day goes by where I don't have a complaint from someone where they just cannot find a place to live or a place that they can afford when you've got a 2-bedroom apartment going through $25,000 to almost $3,000. That's a lot. So a lot of people can't do that, and that's what's happening with our folks from up north coming down here with that tremendous buying power. They're just outpricing a lot of people, and it's a supply and demand type of thing. We are hopeful through our planning department and zoning and getting more applicants to come through into these higher density nodes that are more appropriate. Like the one in Okeechobee is appropriate. The one up in north we felt was appropriate, and create these kind of more dense nodes / hubs where then we can get some transportation in there that's more efficient because the county is so large. So it's a large thing, and you've got to navigate through multiple municipalities. But those are some of the things we're trying to do just to kind of help alleviate the impacts from the people from up north coming down here and purchasing all the property. Interestingly enough, too, the Ag Reserve, that used to be the cheaper place to live. Well, you can't touch anything out there now, and they're just building more and more. So, and a lot of them are sold sight unseen. So yeah, it's a tremendous demand, but we're trying to adjust as quick as we can to get some workforce and some affordable type housing stock to literally do what Raphael said. Put them in the areas where the people work, so there's less impacts on transportation, where people can perhaps ride or walk to work, things of that nature.
So what you all do is really the foundation for successful economic development policy, and so the integration of the elected officials you work with and you as implementers of public policy, the decisions and the conversations you all go through are so important. How can you and the electeds you work for and with avoid working in silos and make sure that we have a regional cohesive approach to policymaking in economic development for all of Palm Beach County? Laura, do you have any thoughts on that?
I wish I had a solution to that. I don't think there are really any easy answers. And honestly, I don't know that the issue for us is necessarily the coordination amongst local officials. It's really more at a state and kind of local level. We go through the situation where airports are highly regulated, and legislation somehow makes it through the legislative session without anybody having conversations with airports of how it actually impacts their operations. So it would be, for my purposes, it would be helpful if we could have a little bit more engagement with our legislators on, those items that specifically impact transportation and airports. I'll give you an example. There was a recent law that was adopted, and apparently nobody spoke to any airports about it when it was adopted, because it referred to things that airports couldn't even do. We were supposed to do a link to a website, to the FAA website with our master plans. Well, our master plans are not on the FAA website. So I think it just needs a little bit more conversation with, the groups and individuals that the legislation impacts.
Right. Ramsey, do you see the same thing, that there's a need a greater collaboration between local and state, or is there more interlocal that's needed?
I think a bit of everything, quite frankly. We have a whole legislative team that works with us to go up to the state and federal level to make sure that things are being done correctly for Palm Beach County. That's not to say not for all the other municipalities, but it's just by its nature difficult to have the county and then all the municipalities. We're one of so many, and each one has so many different variable interests to get them all to come together. But I believe, it seems that we have been coming together more because we are starting to face the same problems, dealing with the housing, dealing with the traffic. It's all common problems now. So now we're kind of putting our heads together to come to some more common solutions. But yeah, more minds working on a problem is better than one solitary mind. So.
Right, Raphael, years ago, I remember there was a task force of all the planning directors of all the cities in the county that I participated in. Are you seeing any sort of similar efforts to bring together all of the different jurisdictions within the county to work in the same direction to similar problems?
I do know that the League of Cities, Palm Beach County League of Cities plays that role. But hearing my fellow panelists, there is a need from the state level right down to the local municipal level, I think, for our leadership and decision makers to have the best information about their communities and the regional issues that we have to work on together. What West Palm Beach wants to do and what Boca wants to do has to somehow line up with what Palm Beach County wants to do and needs to do. So I think having a common understanding of the challenges we face and of the factually based best ways to address those challenges is a good starting point. And I do agree, whether it's the neighbor that doesn't want density in their backyard, or the driver that thinks that multifamily and mixed use on Okeechobee Boulevard is going to make their trip worse. I think that we could all do better from the regional level right down to the very local level of educating our constituents about the value of various options. And then we have an easier road, if you will,
right,
to get to those outcomes, because if we can't fight the voters continuously and have backlash, against our elected officials, we as staff have to give them cover, i.e. information and real world examples of why these projects and programs will work. I often think of like the Mayor's Design Institute, some things I've been involved with here in my job with the DDA, of participating in things like the Copenhagen study tour with our prior mayor, Mayor Moyo. Some of the steps our current mayor, Keith James, has done tremendous work to help facilitate affordability, like the county's doing. So, there's good things happening. I just think that we need to maybe drill down deeper to that layer below elected officials and start talking to our community.
Right. I mean, there's always a need for, and as Ramsey was saying, more heads are better than one. And a lot of good initiatives have been undertaken over the years. And clearly, the influx of capital and people that we've seen isn't slowing down. So what you all are doing is working. And I appreciate, and I'm sure the audience appreciates you highlighting some of the challenges you're facing so that they can take those into consideration as they make business decisions. As I say, that many people are choosing to remain here, and even more choosing to come here. So we appreciate your hard work. Keep it up, and we'll throw it back over to Capital Analytics. Thank you all.
And if everyone can just hold for 1 second, we're going to take a picture. Smile. Perfect.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Andrew, Raphael, Laura, Ramsey. Appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for that discussion. In addition to revisiting this event on our YouTube page, again, you can go and check out our Invest Insights platform also on that same page and see all the conversations that we've been having with local, regional, and national leaders. Also, just to announce that research will begin on our 5th edition of Invest Greater Fort Lauderdale next week. So over the coming months, we will be interviewing leaders in Broward County. If anyone would like to participate in that report, please do reach out to me. It's now my privilege to introduce our closing keynote speaker, Glenn Jurgensen, Executive Director for the Palm Beach County Tourist Development Council. Glenn, as soon as you're in here, if you could turn on your camera and unmute yourself.
Very
Hi,
good. Thank you
good to
very
see
much.
you.
Good to see you. Thanks for the
Thanks for being here today. I'm going to hand it over to you to deliver your remarks.
Very good. Thanks so much. Good afternoon, everybody. As the director of the Palm Beach County Tourist Development Council, reporting into Ms. Baker as she talked earlier, my council really believes that tourism is fundamental to the success, the economic success of Palm Beach County. And I'm proud to report that we are back. We are back today. The Palm Beaches will continue to welcome about 8 million visitors on an average year. Over this past 18 months, it was nothing but average. It was not average at all with our brief downturn because of COVID-19. But I'll take these few minutes to just describe to you what these last 18 months were like. Certainly, fiscal year 2020, which started in October of 2019, we were setting record months for visitation, hotel revenues, Airbnb, VRBO rentals throughout the county were up. Passenger traffic into PBI was at record numbers. We had new hotels that were being constructed and were preparing to open their doors to generate more bed taxes from our visitors here in the county. March 2020, the first 3 weeks, meetings, conferences across our hotel properties across the county were at peak. They were record. We're in full swing. Hotel properties, the convention center, our spring training season had begun. All 4 Major League Baseball teams were here, and about 75% through the spring training season at our 2 beautiful complexes in both Jupiter and West Palm Beach. With our expectations that our economic impact from spring training would surpass the $70 million impact that we saw in 2019. The Honda Classic was over. It was a great success. Our equestrian season was in full swing, and we were at the point where we're in peak end of season competitions for some of the World Cups of polo. And then it was Friday, March 15th. I will never forget that day. The business community was invited to a briefing over at the Palm Beach County Health Department. Dr. Alonso was there, Ms. Baker, Mayor Kerner, Senator Scott, Senator Rubio, the Lieutenant Governor were with us, representatives of all the industries across the county. Laura Beebe was there from the airport, the port director. We were all there to understand what COVID was going to do and be like for us for the coming months as it was starting to explode across various locations in the world and across the US. We heard the sobering news, and during that, the months coming up to that and the months after, this was going to be the darkest days of the pandemic for the tourism industry. Hotels started to close. Some opened for just essential workers. Leisure and hospitality employment declined to levels that we had not seen since the Great Recession of 2009. Air traffic slowed. Airlines started to use airports, including PBI, as 727 parking lots. And rental cars were starting to overflow the rental lots because nobody was taking them and renting them. We at the Tourist Development Council immediately started our tourism recovery plan from this once in 100-year event. All the agencies, our Convention and Visitors Bureau, Cultural Council, Sports Commission, Film and TV Commission, the Convention Center, our airport team headed by Laura and her organization, and the County Environmental Management Team all joined us on weekly planning meetings by that new word we now know to love called Zoom. Expense reductions were needed. We had plans for stopping marketing programs because we certainly didn't see anybody coming to visit us. And we had to understand how we were going to restart the process once the recovery began and we could start to invite people to come to see us, and how we'd fund these marketing programs because our source of revenues, bed taxes, had taken a major hit. These calls occurred for about 15 months. We just went to a monthly meeting this past June. But this shows you the collaboration that we have in Palm Beach County amongst all of our tourism partners, our hotels, our restaurants, cultural venues, visitor attractions. We all work together to figure out how to get visitors back to Palm Beach County. staying in hotels, dining out, visiting the parks, our natural areas, and our 47 miles of beautiful beaches. Everyone was engaged in this recovery, from our early focus on the South Florida market and the Palm Beaches, inviting people to come and stay at the hotels, expanding to the Florida Drive market over time. And then certainly as we get into later phases, we were able to expand in to our traditional markets of Washington, Northeast, and Chicago from the air traffic standpoint. But 2020 bed taxes decreased 20%, equal to that of the Great Recession of 2009. But it could have been worse. At one point in time, we thought it could be as high as a 33% reduction, because that's what we were seeing in our occupancy numbers that we were predicting for our hotels. We've continued the strong recovery because of the 47 miles of beautiful beaches, our wide open spaces, our environmentally friendly parks and recreation system, and not to forget those 18,000 plus hotel rooms, which include iconic 4- and 5-star resorts, certainly along the water, and our PGA resort, national resort up in Palm Beach Gardens, that welcome visitors every single day. Many of the national surveys that we tracked over this period of time, for these 18 months, focused on the desire for travelers who were looking to get started again, and it was a pent-up demand, to come back to places with wide open spaces, less congestion, easy to drive to. They hadn't decided to get on a plane yet. Bingo. We have been able to benefit from those families and visitors who wanted a relaxed, comfortable, uncrowded experience. Travel and tourism in the Palm Beaches is the #1 industry that we share with our agricultural friends. With an average of 90,000 employees and residents who are employed in this leisure and hospitality industry, 75% of those are directly supported by our visitors who come to the Palm Beaches. The economic impact for the tourism industry in Palm Beach County in 2019 was $8 billion. In the pandemic year in 2020, we decreased to $5 billion. We're now in the build back mode. 2021, we estimate that we'll be driving back towards that $8 billion number. With that benchmark, hopefully in 2022, we're going to meet it or exceed it, that level again. We really look forward to that as we head towards 2022, in which we have already started. October is our first month. The recovery's been bumpy. Certainly 21, we exceeded our expectations for forecasts for bed taxes. We brought in $51 million, 5% shy of our 2019 record of $54 million. New hotels have continued to open during this entire period. Existing hotels chose to do some major renovations, one of them being the Boca Raton, expecting to open a little bit later this year. But 75% of the available rooms of the Boca Raton were offline for this entire period. So just imagine what that's going to mean when they're back online and we're ready to welcome visitors in 2022. Occupancies are increasing slowly, but we have been very fortunate that our average daily rates across the county have assisted in this pandemic recovery. And the non-hotels, the Airbnbs, the VRBOs, the rentals by owner have doubled since 2019 to 2021. Many of these visitors have said they've made this decision that these types of properties allow them to better control the environment for their stay. Our goal at the Tourist Development Council is to continue inviting these tourists from around the state, around the nation, around the world to visit the Palm Beaches, to enjoy these world-class resorts, our beautiful beaches. We are known as Florida's golf capital, 160 public and private golf courses that we have that'll exceed the expectations of any golfer of any skill. And not only are we Florida's golf capital, but we also claim and can claim to be Florida's cultural capital, with over 200 museums, cultural venues, and institutions. And we certainly can't forget our equestrian friends. The equestrian capital of the world is right here in Wellington, the village of Wellington out in the west, home to polo, dressage, the Winter Equestrian Festival every January through April, a huge economic driver for the tourism industry and the county itself. We invite you all to discover the Palm Beaches, whether you live in Palm Beach County or other counties in Florida. We certainly would love to have you invite your friends, your family to visit, maybe have them stay in a hotel, but send them a link to the tourism television channel that we have in Palm Beach County that we developed a few years ago, the palmbeaches.tv. It's family-friendly tourism programming on the web and also available on Roku that you can send to your friends and family, invite them to understand what we have to offer, the beauty of Palm Beach County and the beauty of the Palm Beaches. We are the best way to experience Florida. And I really want to thank you and all the panelists that have been before me, and thank you for allowing me to speak today and share this exciting update. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenn, for your remarks, and what a wonderful way to conclude this year's event. Of course, I also want to thank each of our fantastic panelists, moderators, and keynote speakers for your participation. It has been a pleasure and an honor to have you. For all of you that I haven't had the pleasure to meet, my name is Laura Hernandez, and I'm the Executive Director of the third edition of our annual publication, Invest Palm Beach 2021. And as a resident in South Florida, I have to say it's been an incredible experience for me to learn more firsthand about the remarkable growth that Palm Beach County has been experiencing over the past 18 months, but even more importantly, the vast potential for further growth in the county. Not only I'm talking about the traditional sectors of the economy, including real estate and financial services, which, by the way, they're actually booming, but also I'm talking about healthcare, innovation, infrastructure, the equestrian industry, agriculture, and tourism, only to name a few. Now, I'm deeply honored as well by the outstanding amount of support that we have received for this year's edition, the contributions, and also as well the support. I want to thank you each and every one of you that granted knowledge as well to end up a publication counting with over 150 leaders featured between government officials and business executives across all industries. I'm also very excited to report that today's event counted with over 400 registered attendees. And with this in mind, of course, I want to thank you all for joining us, because at the end of the day, without you, none of this would have been possible. And lastly, of course, I want to thank our amazing gold sponsors. Be sure to check them out. Thank you so much for your ongoing support and your trust in our publication. The Business Development Board of Palm Beach County, the Downtown Development Authority of West Palm Beach and Florida Blue, as well as our partners and honor sponsors, the Boca Raton Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce of the Palm Beaches, and Palm Beach County. Thank you so much. Now, as a little bit of a reminder, be sure to check your email after the event concludes, because our team will be soon sending you a complimentary link for you all to check out the 2021 edition in its digital format. And also you'll be able to rewatch and share this event through our YouTube web page. And last but not least, I also want to invite you, if you haven't done so yet, to visit our website, capitalanalyticsassociates.com, and register to our weekly newsletter, where you will be able to keep informed about the latest industry trends and business updates, not only for Palm Beach County, but for the rest of the other 16 markets that we cover, including Philadelphia, Atlanta, Miami, Nashville, and many others. Now, having said this, I just want to thank you all so much for joining us as well again. And I truly hope that you enjoy reading our publication as much as we enjoy producing it. And we do certainly look forward to having you again next year for the 2022 edition of Invest Palm Beach. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.